Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to my Tuesday evening live stream show, Communications from Home. And I'm going to get the little thing up here. I always forget to do this piece. There. Now you know who I am. And that it's Communications from Home. This is a Star Nations live stream. And tonight is all about our changes in our lives and the mile markers, those landscape mile markers that takes our attention, right? So many of us have been going through like huge major changes since late last year, and I'm one of them. And so, you guys have kind of been following me along on this, what I'm calling my recalibration journey. And so tonight's show is much about that. Because I'm interested. I'm interested in how you're doing and what you're finding to be your landmarks, your mile markers in this shift of our lives. And so tonight, that's what it's all about on Tuesday, May 25th. And it has been a beautiful day here in Toma, I have to say. We've actually it feels like summer here finally. Yay. And I wanted to ask you also a question. Are you guys ready for the full moon eclipse in Sagittarius? What's it called? I got my notes here. Flower blood moon. It's a super moon. It's supposed to happen tomorrow night, May 26th. And lots of things going on celestially and so many things, right? And so make sure you're grounded so that you can be able to absorb and take whatever the creator is giving to us today, tomorrow, and even I think Julie says that Julie Hedges, that is, Julie says, we have 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the effects of these kinds of things. So yay. Hopefully everything is going to go perfect, right? Okay, not perfect, but you know what I mean. I'm going to say hi to a few folks here before we get started. Deanna's in the house. Hello, Deanna. Good to have you here, lady. It's always good to have you in the house. And look who else is here. Amy. Can't hear or see the video? Oh, no. Okay, so Deanna, can you hear me? Let me know, because I can work on that and make sure you guys can hear me. Otherwise, Amy, you may have to refresh if it's just yours, okay? Thank you so much, Rob. You're such a good guy. And Rochelle says, hello, Neshi. Hello, Rochelle. And I even mentioned the grounding piece, Rochelle. Okay, good. Thank you, Deanna. And Carla's here too. Hello, Clara. I'm sorry, Clara from West Allis. I know, you're just down the road a piece, like by 3 hours. And Julie's here too. Hello, Julie. Oh, I just love seeing you guys in the house like this. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you for letting me know. Jackie's here too. Hi, Jackie. Good to have you here. And oh, thank you, Rochelle. Thank you so much. Whenever we find something that it speaks to us, right? I think it's part of our spiritual journey is to share those kinds of things. And so when we like and share, whether it's this show or other live streams, other videos, YouTubes, quotes, those kinds of things, if it affected us in a good way, right? Don't we want to share it? That's what I do. And thank you, Rochelle, for doing that. I appreciate it because it's that logarithm thing with Facebook. Julie says, I can hear you. Thank you, Julie. Good. Watching in Facebook. Oh, you are? He usually watches by YouTube. Now you finally have both. Good, Amy. I'm glad. Good. See, I told you. Rob usually does Facebook too, or YouTube, which, by the way, we're simulcasting is what they're called, both here and YouTube live. So, you guys, this recalibration journey that I've been on since my mom walked on, right, last November. In a couple of days, it's going to be 6 months that she's walked on. And it was yesterday that I just, it's like, it's mind-boggling. And I know life and time moves forward, right? And so, and it's just a kind of, man, time has really gone by. It's gone by very quickly. and yet sometimes it feels very slow. You know, it's like there's a pause, or that when you take a deep breath, you know, and then you go, it's kind of like that. And so I don't know if that's the same for you or not, but it is for me. Um, I just to turn around and 6 months has already elapsed. It's like, geez. Okay, so Rob, he always makes me laugh. Meant YouTube. You can't tell the difference. I know. So, and happy birthday, Rob. Yesterday was Rob's birthday. I hope you had a good day celebrating you. Yeah, it's always good to, that's one of those mile markers, isn't it? Our birthdays. Yeah, that's what the show is about tonight, is life's mile markers, especially since, you know, pre-COVID, our life was very different. How we moved through our life was different. Transportation, where we worked, how we worked, those kinds of things, but also in our private life, sometimes is very different than what it was. The many people that I've talked to, and I've heard their stories, right? Because thank you so much too for those people who have checked in on me, both by phone and by private messages. And so I get a chance to ask them how they're doing as well, right? And listening to their stories, I can tell you that many people have gone through huge changes in the last 3 to 6 months. You know, everything from changing jobs or careers, um, divorcing, getting married, everything, those big, huge life changes, selling their home. You know, it's a seller's market, so a lot of people are selling, deciding now is the time to sell. And so if I'm going to move, we're going to move now, right? And so lots of big changes in people's lives. And so I call that part of the recalibration, because I think that we're um, following where spirit is guiding us, our higher selves, our soul selves. You know, when we take a look at um, synchronicities, couldn't think of the word right away. synchronicities, and our dreams and those kinds of things, right? And you wonder where, why, how, and if we're quiet enough, if we're still enough, that we can actually tap into what our spiritual team is asking us, right? Or telling us, showing us. And here's this. When I was prepping for the show, life mile markers, and for some reason, when I was doing my notes, marker stones kept coming up in my mind, and so I wrote it down, and I'm asking my team, why mile markers? Why stone markers? You know? And so what they were showing me is that stone markers, much like survey stone markers in the old days, when surveyors would survey a piece of property, they would put a certain kind of stone in the corners where the property would meet, right? And the reason why they did that is because they were establishing boundaries. Yeah. And literally, it was set in stone. Meaning that it was, I don't want to say it was unmovable, but it took much more to move that boundary. It ends up being more of a legal and a, you know, it gets registered, right, at the county and in the townships. And so, yeah, you can move them, but it takes time, takes effort. It has to be resurveyed, and then they have to remark it again. And so, as my team was showing this to me, and I was thinking, okay, life's mile markers, and if we put that into that piece of information about the survey stones, many times our life's markers helps us to either reestablish a boundary, a personal boundary. Maybe it is to establish a new boundary, because our lives are completely different in a lot of respects. And so we have to establish boundaries, right? And so one of our life's mile markers may be about boundaries. And, I've always said that to set your boundaries out of love rather than fear, because when they're set out of love, they're much stronger. They're not tested as much when they're set out of love. When they're set out of fear, you go through a lot of testing. Do you really mean it? Is it really supposed to be this strong? And so you go through a lot of testing when your boundaries are set out of fear. So let's set an example for that. Okay, a good example, and a good example is those personal boundaries. And so one set out of love is that let me think. I'm thinking of my Merkaba, my surrogate Merkaba that protects our property, right? In that programming for that particular Merkaba has a lot of the boundaries are set with the intention that only the highest and most loving energy to enter. Okay. It also has to protect under all conditions. Under all conditions. So I'm not delineating, exactly what's fearful and what's more fearful, but it's the protection under all conditions, and that that love is expressed as the energy moves in and moves out, and so it has that. How do I want to say this? People are drawn here, yes, because they feel the frequency of love. But only those people with the highest good for all involved are able to come in. And so I'm relaxed about it, right? It relaxes me. It's nothing that I have to have running in the back of my mind all the time. And so that is a boundary set out of love. Does that make sense? So we get a chance to take a look at our boundaries with this. And so while I was looking up survey stones and what that was all about, I decided what is a mile marker? And a mile marker is something that assists to identify your location, especially when you're requesting help. So if you're on the interstate or on a highway and you see the mile marker, which by the way, Toma's exit closest to my house is exit 143. And so if you are needing assistance on the highway, you can say, I just passed mile marker 143. So that the help that you're calling in knows that you're somewhere between mile marker 143 and 144, right? And so it is to identify your location. But it also helps you to be able to calculate when you're going to arrive to your location, where you're going to, right? And so our life mile markers do the same thing as highway markers. And so as we're going through our recalibration journey, certain things happen in our lives that we say, oh, that was important, or wasn't that interesting? Why did it happen that way? Or why did that person come to see me today, or call me, or send me a text, right? It's something that helps you to mark something that is eventful in your life. So mile markers identify special times in our lives, or specific times in our lives. We can also use the phrase milestone, right? Combine those two. We use a milestone. And these specific events in our lives are around or about people, places, and events. So if you just kind of sit here just for a moment, just turn your mind to what has happened recently that just really stands out to you in your life, right? That's a mile marker. And so I think it's important. I think it's important that we take a moment to reflect on where we've been, where we are, and where do we want to go? See, I'm still working on that part. Where do I want to go? It's getting easier. There's some decisions that I've made, but Yeah, I think that it's all about our journey here in this recalibration. What have we learned from the past? Where we are now, making sure that we're in the present, right? That we're taking care of ourselves. That self care is really, really important. Yeah. So I'm gonna get caught up here. Um, Deanna says, set the fire and share the sweat lodge on Saturday with shamanic drumming. Well, geez, that's important. God, I wish I were there because I really do need a good sweat. Rob says, this is very timely as I'm actively involved in setting boundaries right now. Good, good. You know, in our old life, pre COVID, right? In our old life, our boundaries may have looked one way, felt a certain way, were needed for a certain thing. And now that we're past that panic state, that traumatic, dramatic state, and we've seen how our lives have shifted. Some people are decided that maybe they're going to work from home now, right? Because they can. Or perhaps, as a family, the children decided that, I kind of like being homeschooled. Is there a way that we can do this? And that now there's lots of different options out there for education. And so our lives are much different, which means that our boundaries have to change. They have to be, I was going to say, flexible in a way that we can maybe not need a certain one. So we take that one away and establish a new one, or perhaps maybe use the old one, but it's used in a much different way. So only individually can we decide if what's needed in that boundary, right? Yeah. Oh, look, Julie's here. Hello, Julie. I just mentioned the full moon eclipse, a flower blood moon. Flower blood moon? Yeah, that's right. The super moon. I just mentioned that in the beginning. I actually mentioned you, Julie. And so this mile marker thing, I think it's important that we just kind of sit back, even with a cup of coffee or tea or something in the morning or in the afternoon when you want to take a short break from whatever you're doing, and just kind of reflect on what has happened in the last 6 months, in the last 3 months. What's changed, right? What are the synchronicities that has happened? And do they happen often, like repetitive, right? Some people say that they're seeing repeated numbers, triple numbers, double numbers, those kinds of things. Those synchronicities that makes you kind of go, what just happened? I think that something important just happened. When certain people come into your life, new people, okay? Or perhaps it's somebody from your distant past that has come back into your life. And we also have to take a moment and recognize those people that are no longer in your life, right? Maybe you are going through a divorce. Maybe your best friend and you don't see eye to eye anymore. Something happened, you know? And so it doesn't have to be dramatic, right? And it doesn't have to be traumatic. But there's a change. There's a change. Or different events, like a birthday, Rob, like your birthday, right? Or Mother's Day just happened, right? Which was kind of not real smooth for me, but it was something that I had to pay attention to, right? And it took a couple days for me to kind of be okay after that. But there's certain things that happen. Now, Memorial Day is coming up. And what does that mean for us, right? Um, a Memorial Day last year, do you remember that? Couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't do your usual picnic, right? Some cemeteries weren't allowing people in. to visit their deceased loved ones. And so this Memorial Day is going to be experienced much differently than others in the past. And so I think we really need to be able to be aware of what's going on around us and how it affects our recalibration journey. Things that we need to pay attention to, like our dreams. Remember that show I did about the dreams? Are you still taking in the messages coming through your dreams? Or in the in between time, you're not quite awake, whether you're just falling asleep or you're just waking up, right? So the other day, mine was I woke up to one of my guides. I could hear them repeating the number 38, 38. There'd be a pause and it'd be 38. It's like, okay, so what's with 38? I know it's a master number, it's 11. Okay, so what's with the 38? And so that puts me on looking for that number throughout my day, right? What could that possibly mean? Asking them, what does the number 38 mean? And it does have something to do with the master number. But it also has to do with Paul and I are looking at a new or a different RV, right? Not right away, but because we're not making any big decisions right now. But maybe in the future, so 38 is the length. that would be a good length for us. And so those kinds of things, right? Now, does that make any big difference right now? No, but it might be in where we're placing our energy and what we're looking at and what we're looking for. Because, we watch YouTubes, right? About RVs, both towable and super C's and C's and those kinds of things. And so instead of spending a whole lot of time on all of them, it helps us narrow it down because there's a lot out there. And so keeping track of those mile markers, because when we take a look back at where we've been, when we do that life assessment thing, right? Those mile markers are going to help us to show us our soul growth in those events, those things that have happened at mile marker blah 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 for you, right? Is going to show you how much you've grown, because we're all growing. Even if you feel like all I'm doing is sitting at home not doing much, you're still growing. It's still expanding, right? Yeah. All right. Rob is saying finding the right intention is difficult, and I likely set this moon's intention too strictly, but maybe this month is meant to be strict. Next month's class looks to be a game changer. Yes. We're doing journey of remembering. It's all about remembering from the sacred space of your heart, the tiny space of your heart, and how we create from there. Okay. And Rob is in the class, and so is Karen Blummer and Janet. And so we have room for a couple more people. It's going to be a small class. We need at least 6 people. And we've got 4 right now. So if you're interested, yes, it's a game changer. It's one of those classes that, yeah, when you remember from the tiny space of your heart, a lot of things change. It does. Rochelle says, I will be 70 in July. Deb is taking us on a helicopter ride over the Traverse City area. Turning 70 has really been challenging. Really? Yeah, there is, as we grow older, right? I mean, I turned 61 in December. And do I feel 61? No, I don't. In my mind, I'm like 32 or 33. And yeah, but we are elders. We are. And so, it's taking that look back too, isn't it, Rochelle? In assessing our own growth and where we've been where we're at right now, and where the heck do I want to go now? What do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up? Kind of thing. And that's where I'm at. I don't know if that's where you're at, Rochelle, but that's where I'm at. What do I want to be when I grow up? Because, the next 20, 30 years is, there's lots I want to do yet. And so it's how to get there. Here's the other thing that I want to share. And thank you, Rochelle, for that. She says it's a powerful class because she went through it last year, or the year before, I mean, sorry. Yes, Rochelle, definitely. And Amy says, yes, very timely with things happening and some people from past coming back to make my life hell. Oh no. Very stressful on health, learning, standing up for myself, setting boundaries, though always tested. No, I won't be able to work until government retirement age. So trying to figure out what next. Yes. Yes, Amy. And the thing is that that's your decision, not the government's decision, right? And I'm so glad that you're looking at it from this perspective. Those people coming back from the past and those tripping those triggers for you, it's in those triggers is like that strong emotion, um, not running away from it, right? But turning around and facing it and saying, okay, I thought I dealt with you once before, this emotion, not the people, but the emotion. It's like, where is this coming from? This must be another layer I need healing, or I need to look at, right? And yeah, oops. Yes, my mind feels about 37 years, but my body's saying it's something else. I know. You know what my mom used to say, Rochelle? The mind's willing, the body's not. That's what she used to say. Rob is saying repeating numbers from tonight. Check your PMs from after the show. Oh, okay. I'll do that. Yeah, and my repeating numbers consistently 333 consistently. And so when I see that, I know that I need to sit down and do some channeled writing, automatic writing, because the Ascended Masters on my team has something to say. And so that's their cue to me to say, we need to talk to you. Yeah. I'm there too, Neshi. Go guess. There's so many of us that are, Amy, so many of us. Rob says, what do I want to do if I grow up? Yeah, that's true. That's another way to say it. It certainly is. Oops. Clara. Clara says the number 13 keeps happening to me, but it makes me happy. Well, that's good. That's good because the number 13, Clara, is a number that is a very profound and powerful number, really. Okay, because when you get to 12, you need to start another octave. And so the 13th starts another octave. And when you get to 12, okay, so this is all about creation, right? You have the number, you have 12 items, and the 13th starts the new cycle. And so the 13th one breaks through the 12. So if you're thinking of maybe fertilizing an egg, there's 12 sperm that need to bombard the cell, right? And to be able to weaken the wall, and so that the 13th one can make its way through, right? Our world is filled with a lot of 12s, 12 months, right? Zodiac, lots of 12s. And it's when the 13th comes in to start that next cycle. So I'm wondering, Clara, what new cycle are you starting? Maybe that's why it makes you happy, because it's about a new beginning, right? New energy. Yeah. There's the other one, the 12 apostles, right? They say that Christ was the 13th one. And yeah, and we all know the story about that one, right? Julie says, we're definitely in the time of integration, new ideas with our beliefs. Absolutely. And if you have been spending time with your belief systems, plural, and taking a look at what is supporting you and what no longer supports you and what you're letting go or adapting, That's all about what we're going through right now, that recalibration. It really is. Because, there's things that, for instance, I know I shared this with you guys before, but um, in the culture I grew up in, the Ho-Chunk and Potawatomi culture, is that you have a year of mourning a loved one that has walked on. And so within that year, um, you're you're expected not to do a lot of social things. No powwows. If you go to a powwow, no dancing. Depending, you're sitting further in the back. You're not participating in those social things, right? And for somebody like me who loves to dance and the drum, I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? But listen, there's not a whole lot of powwows still not happening. There's a few happening in person, but there's nothing they're pretty far away, right? I know we could jump in the truck and go, but there's also a part of me that kind of sits back, and I never understood this piece before, is that there's a part of you that just isn't interested in doing those really big social things. Right. And so now there's a different understanding to it. So I'm not ready just to chuck that one out the window, but to maybe take a look at it. And also, because everything was happening and still happening online, so much of in my culture with the powwows, is that I'm not really very active online with it either. So taking a look at our belief systems. Okay. This is no small piece of our journey that we're on right now. This recalibration journey is a major shift. And when my team was talking to me about imagine, close your eyes and imagine what it would be like if you believed that you are your soul, that when others see you or sense you, that they're sensing your soul first because you are your soul. And it is a shift in consciousness. That's what this recalibration journey is all about, is our shift in consciousness. And for those of us in Star Nations community, we have been doing our due diligence and our soul work, right? And our soul growth. We've done lots and lots of healing of different ways, ancestral healing. We've done our own personal healing, mental and emotional traumas. We've done a lot of work on it. That we have a certain understanding of spirit, right? No matter what that is, no matter what religion or non-religion you come from. And so yeah, this means that we're I was going to say preparing for that shift, but we're already prepared. We're already prepared. We're already in it. This recalibration piece is meant to really for us to slow down even further and go within even more, so that when those eclipses happen in a super moon, that we are more than prepared to accept all the gifts that are coming through. Right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Look who's here. Stephanie's here. I'll eventually get to the class. Surgery was rescheduled again. I know. You'll be here. Don't worry. All in good timing, right? Divine timing. Julie says, sometimes the new information may challenge those beliefs, which may need an upgrade. Exactly. Exactly. Rob says 13 is the focus, predates the 12. Yes. Yes. You got it, Rob. Clara says, I'm changing how I'm not letting people push or bait me in arguments just to make myself feel important and put me down. Yeah. It's those triggers. It's those little buttons that they know how to push, right? Yeah. But if you weren't ready for it, Clara, if you weren't ready to heal whatever that is, or for it to come to the surface to be addressed, it wouldn't be there. it wouldn't be there. Yeah, it's when those things bubble to the surface and it catches our attention again that we are in a position to deal with it and to heal it, to handle it, to finally get to the root of whatever it is, right? Yeah, because otherwise it wouldn't be there. Yeah, and how often has that happened, right? In the old days, like a few months ago, there was a time when, I just didn't have time. I didn't have time. Okay, I see you, I acknowledge you, I see that, and I'll deal with it in a month. I'll deal with it next week. I'll deal with it tomorrow, right? Oh. Yeah, and so it's not until it's right here in my face, like this close, that, it it doesn't go away, so I'm going to deal with it. I'm gonna face it. I've got my team with me all the time, and when those things happen, it's like, "Well, what was that about? I thought I dealt with that." Oh, yeah. Okay, it's the next layer. And so, getting help with it, right? I know, I know. But this is what we came here for, was the soul growth. Yeah, we signed up for this. We signed on the dotted line. We did, our soul contract, which, by the way, is another thing, right? Many of us have, come really close to either finishing or completing that first soul contract. And so many of us are that's what this recalibration journey is about, is how do we, establish an upgraded, new soul contract while in a living body, while our soul is in with this living body, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? I know I've talked about this before. I don't know, a few years ago, about new contracts, soul contracts. I don't know how many people really took note of that, but here we are. That's what this recalibration journey is all about. When I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" This is the next life within a life. Do you ever feel like your past lives? Because depending on what your belief system is around that, um, for me, it felt like, and this was back in 2012, like they were collapsing into themselves, like those travel cups. You know how you can pull them up and squish them, or Russian nesting dolls. Yeah, so they all kind of collapsed and came into this life. So all all of my soul's wisdom, everything that I've learned through every past life, is brought into this life. And so with all the work that I've done, right, on my soul and the soul growth and healing and all of that, helps to prepare for that to occur so that we can be, um, present present in this recalibration. That's why I wanted to do the show tonight. So many people were wanting. A good friend of mine, Teresa, she was saying, you need to do a show about after COVID. That we survived the COVID thing. So what's next? And I said, this is the recalibration. COVID happened, was divinely timed, whether you want to believe it or not, that you want that it was, human contrived and all of that. Possibly. I'm not saying it's not. There's a possibility. But I also know that everything happens in divine timing. And so everything that happened in the entire world, everybody on earth, including our four-legged friends and two-legged friends and the furred and finned ones, right? Everybody was affected by it. Yeah. It's about the recalibration journey. And those of us that are ready to identify our soul contract, that's what we're working on right now. When I said my mom taught me a lot in the last 3 months about living and dying, that was no small statement. Because when I realized this was after, I want to say it was in January, when I made the realization, I was doing some automatic writing, and the realization of the new contract, and it's like, again, still. All right. Deanna says, may I request a written copy of what I've signed up for? In duplicate, right? Amy says, how do we know when we are close to or have finished the soul contract and we have that we started with? Oh, that is such a good question, Amy. Good question. Okay, so this is what happened to me. Okay, and this was back in 2009. Wait, gotta take a drink. Water. Okay. So whenever I went into meditation, it was like my team wasn't there. It was like quiet. And I'd ask a question and it was quiet. Where'd you guys go? Quiet. And I'd fall asleep. Now, I never fall asleep in meditations prior to that. And then it started feeling like there were some things that I really loved to do that it was irritating. And Amy, you've known me for a long time, right? How many times have I opened a circle, called in the directions, right? It came a time that I was in a group and we're getting ready to just get started. And they wanted to open the 4 directions. And they just assumed I would do it. And I said, you guys, you have watched me do this for how many years? I know you know how. You don't have to do it exactly the way that I do it. Do it in your own way. You can do this. And I have to tell you, Amy, that it was in that moment that, because I felt that just a little bit of an irritation rub. It's like, what? I don't have to always do everything. Right? Okay. Now, and they did. Someone opened and did a wonderful, beautiful job in opening the 4 directions. And I was telling Paul that night, see, this is one of those life's mile markers. Okay. I was telling Paul that night, I said, I wonder if this is what it feels like to be retired. Because I was so done. I was so done. Now, take that experience and that feeling and then come forward to 2021, 2020, 2021. And so I recognize that feeling. So what is shifting right now? Why do I feel like because we literally are in retirement. Paul's retired, and what does that mean? Kind of thing. And so I think, Amy, that when you start feeling those kinds of emotions, don't have to call it retirement, but those kinds of emotions, is that your soul is telling you something, right? Your soul. And so listen to it and say, what does that mean for us right now? Does that mean that my soul contract, that first one, is complete? Did I complete that one? Is that why I'm feeling this way? Ask them. Ask for guidance. Because, I used to ask the same question. It's a really good question. Knowing my goals and intentions, my team, I'd say, okay, so we're doing such and such. What's my next best step? And I would ask that to them all the time. All right, so what's my next best step? And it got to that, when I got to that point, they weren't answering me anymore because there was no answer, because I hadn't made any decisions yet. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so this one, of course, I've asked them. Yeah. Yeah. Um, Rochelle says, I have been thinking about my soul contract and trying to change it to what I don't know. Oh, maybe I should do a show or a class on that. What do you think? Because yeah, you can, if you haven't finished your contract, there's certain things within your current contract that you can take a closer look at and ask if it can be understood in a different way, right? Because sometimes I think that we look at, because we're human, we look at things sometimes too linear, right? And so maybe we just need to ask about the perception of it. And so it's not really changing it, but it's looking at it differently. I hope that makes sense. When you have completed a contract, it almost feels like you're in limbo. You're not here, you're not there. You can't really make the old stuff work because because it's already done. It's already done. And so, it's yeah. Does that I hope I'm not talking in circles here because it feels like I am. Rob is saying, it matched an astrological forecast Julie sent me in 2018 and convinced me of the need to have a daily spiritual practice. It kept me going in 2020. Yeah, yes. So those mile markers in our lives, obviously, Rob, that particular astrology reading is a mile marker for you, a milestone, a survey stone, right? And sometimes it does take some time for those kinds of things to play out. It doesn't happen necessarily, right, Julie? Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't necessarily complete itself in a month. It doesn't necessarily complete itself in 6 months or a year. It's like a window, right? Slowly closing or slowly opening. Yeah. Can you recommend a good soul lawyer? There are no lawyers. It's between you and the creator. That's it. Rochelle says, TV, thank you. Interesting point. Yes, I feel like I'm in limbo. Many of us do. We're in a good spot together, I think. Because listen, the magic is in the betwixt and the between. We're right in between the old contract and a new contract. That's what this recalibration journey is all about. Yeah, the daily spiritual practice. And honestly, Julie, I went back. Remember, I said I went back to chopping wood, carrying water. I went back to the basics in January. Meditation, automatic writing, right? Tai Chi. Yeah, there's so many things that I just went back to the basics with, the things that I started 30 years ago. Just the basics. It helped me with that daily practice. And maybe we need to even change that a little bit. Daily practice. I like the daily spiritual. I don't know if I want to call it practice anymore because it's all about application. It's not about practice. And I know this is, the term, right? But we have to be aware of the words that we're using too. Yeah. A daily spiritual ritual, maybe, you know, but something that puts it in the present and that we are 38, that we're mastering or already mastered. Hmm. That's something I gotta spend a little more time on. Thank you for that, Julie. Deanna says, come from you to understand the limbo there. I know that in between spot, because we are human. And depending on where you were raised and what belief systems you were raised with, we were taught how to be productive. If you aren't doing something, you're unproductive and your value goes down, right? And so sitting quietly isn't seen as productive. And that's something I've had to deal with in the last few months, right? Yeah, because it's different. It's a different way of using our energy. I was sharing this with, gosh, I was talking to somebody. I think it was Stephanie. And I said that, in the old days, I would be so busy, 10 different things going on at one time, major things, classes and all kinds of stuff, right? And I was in a groove. I was happy. And my energy and being a triple fire, there's a lot there that I need to dispense, right? And today, I can't do that. I try to go back to how I used to spend my energy, and it took me 3 days to recover from it. It's like, this isn't funny. This isn't how I am used to using my energy, my physical energy, my emotional energy, my mental energy. It I have to use it in a different way. And that's what I'm remembering how to do, right? Yeah, because the old way doesn't work. Put me on my back, literally. Amy says, thank you, Neshi. This really helps. A lot of this really resonates, has for a past few months. Yes. Yes. Yeah. I remember that, what it felt like. One of those mile markers for me was that, what I just shared with you. Um, and so to recognize some of the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. Julie says, right, we get many chances to work on our lessons and blessings, cosmically speaking. Yes, we do. It keeps coming back around, doesn't it? Deanna says, conscious spiritual connection. Yeah, I like that. Conscious spiritual connection. That would be a great show title. You want to be a host, Deanna? We'll call the show Conscious Spiritual Connection. Yeah. Rob says, you made me stop typing, but the Greek refers to the application. Yes, I know. I know. I know. But the thing is that it's like the word trying. Trying. We understand what that means. But whenever we're trying to do something, many times we use it in a positive way. Well, I'm really trying. I'm really trying. But when we're trying means that we're constantly reaching for it, and we can't quite get there. And so we're trying. And it's a lot of energy going out with very little return on it. And so that's the same way for me anyway with practice, is like practicing. It's like you never really get there, wherever there is. So for me, it's more about being in it, being in it. Yeah. Something to think about, something to spend some time about, something to daydream about. I'm getting pretty good at daydreaming, by the way. Rochelle says, I feel like I'm grieving my youth, not being able to do physical things like playing softball, downhill skiing. Yeah, exactly. And some of that, Rochelle, is exactly what I was talking about, is how we use our energy, right? We can't, how we allocate our energy, both physically, emotionally, mentally, yeah, spiritually. Yeah. You know, how do we want to say this? It's not until you get to a certain place in your life that you realize, if I would have just done X, Y, or Z, I could be, right, better. I could be still doing something like that. Yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm taking a closer look in my own life on my physicalness, about the health, right, of my physical body. So really paying attention to that, the diabetic thing, right? Working with a nutritional um, coach who happens to be Ho Chunk. I think I shared this with you guys, who happens to be Ho Chunk so that she understands my cultural background as well. Right. And so it's very helpful to have somebody like that on my team so that when we're looking at the diabetic situation, she understands the cultural aspect of it. But the Tai Chi, and I just started doing resistance training, using the bands kind of thing. And I have pretty good balance, physical balance, right? Like standing on one foot kind of thing. Um, but I want to maintain that. And so that I'm making sure that I'm doing exercises that help those muscles that help us with our balance. So that, yeah, I recognize that because, I want to have really good balance when I'm in my 70s, which isn't, 10 years from now. So, those kinds of things. So I'm glad you said and shared that, Rochelle. I really am, because it's in the grief, right? So the grief is everything that we hold inside, all those feelings and emotions about it. By you expressing it and sharing it with us, that is the act of mourning, mourning, mourning it, which means that you're able to have that energy move through you rather than stay inside, right? Yeah. So thank you for that. Julie says I have to log off to get ready for my live at 8 p.m. on. Oh my gosh. Yes, go do that. In fact, I'll try to catch up with you there, okay? All right. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Julie. And Amy says, so if we are trying but still not getting, can the cosmic 2x4 and health and problems to get you to slow down? Yes. Or huge other physical problems. Kids graduating really had a bad effect on me. Planning. I'm trying to catch up here. Bad effect. Planning the future, dealing with my physical health, and having a deep, deep knowing I don't have a lot of years left. Yeah. Yeah. It's about that, Amy. It is about that consciousness shift, that paradigm shift, if you will, changing how you think and how where your energy is going, right? It's a consciousness shift. That's what this recalibration is all about. Rochelle says, I'm having the same symptoms that I had before my left shoulder surgery, have bone spurs in my right shoulder and muscle tears. Oh my goodness. Yeah. A lot of physical stuff. You and Amy, a lot of physical stuff. Okay. So taking a look at your milestones, especially in the last year, the last 6 months, the last 3 months, what are those things that have happened in your life that go, oh, there's one, there's one. And whether it's helping you to see how much you've grown or showing you those pivot points in your life, right? Those growth spurts in your life, those kinds of things. Yeah. I hope this was helpful, at least to get us to start considering what are our life biomarkers and where do we want to go? More on that in the next show. Communications from home. I'm looking at the time and we're at the top of the hour. This goes by so quickly. I want to say thank you to everybody that's in the audience tonight. I so appreciate you being here and sharing, because we learn so much from each other, and I appreciate that. So join me next week on Tuesday night for Communications from Home, and we'll continue the spiritual conversation there. Okay? All right. So Bama Mina, that's Potawatomi for until we see each other again. I love you guys.